Hi, I'm Mel.
And I'm Janelle.
And this is the Murder Mamas.
We're here.
We are here. You tricked me on that
I
one.
know. I like to.
Oh.
It's my favorite.
Yeah.
It's a Thursday.
It is a Thursday. Yeah.
How are we doing?
I think we're doing good today. It was a good day.
Good.
Yeah.
Because when I got here, you look like you were exhausted from your day in the mines.
Yeah. Or just high. Either one.
What is happening to you right now?
I just smoked right before you got. I was like, oh shit, it's 7:45. I thought it was 7.
Oops.
Whoops. That's okay.
We'll see how it goes.
We'll see how it goes. Okay.
What are we doing?
We are going to talk about Keep Sweet, Pray, and Obey. And this is on Netflix, right? Yeah, that was Netflix.
Yes, it was Netflix.
Yes. Yeah, so the title I have a problem with. Just the title of it. This is a cult. We've been getting a lot of downloads with our cult talk, so I thought we'd continue on that. This might be the last one for a little bit because I'm kind of over the cults because they're a lot to handle.
And staring daggers at her because I prefer this over.
Do you?
Mid.
No.
I feel like I can only talk about so many of them so much. It's been a really nice little break.
It has been a really nice break.
Plus, it's just been like watching things, which has been really nice.
Yeah, I have another one that
I don't have to read.
So. Yeah, that's true.
I enjoy not reading. I like to read for pleasure, not for...
Right, yeah, me too. I get that.
So, it's been nice.
Yeah.
So Keep Sweet, Pray, and Obey. It's on Netflix. It's a 4-part series. Mm-hmm. Came out a few years ago.
Yeah.
2022.
Yeah.
A lot of people have watched it.
Yeah.
The first 2 weeks, 58.78 million hours.
No shit.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Globally.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of people watch it.
People like cult stuff.
I really struggle to say, like, it's a cult. Because, like, part of it feels like a religion. And I don't know that, like, it meets the true definition of a cult. But, like, I don't really know what the true definition.
Yeah.
I couldn't, like, pull that out of my hat right now.
Right.
But, I mean, I guess it's a cult.
Yeah, it's a cult.
Are all religions cults?
Yeah, that's basically how I think of it, yes. But I'm not religious, so that's the way I look at it. Like, my mom or my mother-in-law always says stuff like, well, we gotta go to church. I'm like, it's a cult. It's a cult. You guys are in a building that costs, I don't know how much money that you've donated to, and you're sitting there listening to one man preach, and preach. And you all believe the same thing, and you're all doing the same thing at once. It's fucking weird. I'm sorry.
Well,
I don't like it.
Now that you've excluded anyone who's mildly religious, maybe we can move on. No,
we just lost every listener.
Honestly, I don't care because you're entitled to your opinion.
Yeah.
Whether or not that's right, that's your take on it, and that's fine. I'm also not religious, but I don't know. I struggle going so far as to being like, you're in a cult, because I think that there's like certain aspects of a cult that not every religion like really has.
Sure, I get that.
Where
I'm on board with that.
I struggle to be like, it's a cult. But this one I feel like is more like a cult because it has like a prophet. Yeah, and there's like a lot of that. Whereas like, I don't know, I feel like a regular like non-denominational Christian church, like the priest or pastor? He's not standing at the front being like, I'm a prophet of Jesus. You know, like that to me is different.
Yeah, that's true.
So like,
no, if you're just reading Bible passages and talking about life, like that's not a cult.
Yeah.
Like that's
so just, like I struggle when people are like, it's a cult. Although I'm not religious. Right. I'm like, well, is it? Like,
no, I get that. I take it to the extreme sometimes. Say that.
Sometimes? But just sometimes?
Just sometimes.
So anyways, this documentary is about the FLDS church. I'm going to call it a church.
They branched out, yeah.
They're a branch off of the Mormon LDS church. And so they're like fundamentalist.
Right.
Latter-day Saints.
Whatever the hell that means. Yes. Yeah. So, right off the bat, they believe in polygamy. And is that...
That's like the main thing.
I think
that's the main reason they branched off.
Illegal in the United States?
Yeah, I know, it is.
So, like, I don't understand how they get away with this.
They're not legal marriages. The first marriage is like your legal marriage. Okay. And then all of the other ones are like symbolic. So, like, that's your wife, but there's no...
So that's how they get around it? Or, I mean, because they're actually getting married, aren't they not? No?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, I was just wondering, like, why they can't... The government just couldn't go in there and, like, shut it down. Because they're doing something illegal.
Because I think it's hard to prove. I think in the documentary, I don't remember what episode it was, but they talk about how, like, they're very... There's a lot of resources that they have.
Yeah.
So they know the laws and they find ways to like skirt those laws, and they know that like maybe it's not going to be prosecuted in Utah.
Right.
Or Arizona, but maybe it will be, but they know that they can go to Vegas and like maybe, or not Vegas, but Nevada, and like it's a little bit different. It's the same like Sister Wives, the fucking TV show. Yeah. They used to live in Utah. And then I remember watching an episode where like, they were like, oh, people are coming for us. And they just left their houses and moved to Nevada. Yeah. I'm like, huh?
Yeah. Same with Love Has Won. They just burned down the house and just floated off in their boat and went and lived somewhere else. Like,
and so I wonder, like, they don't get divorced. Like, I know, like, the Sister Wives, like, a bunch of those wives left him.
Right.
And they went to, like, now they all live in Flagstaff, Arizona. Like, what the hell? But, like, they just, like, left. Yeah. So I think you can just, like, sever tie. Like, it's like a breakup. Right. And not...
Yeah, it didn't seem like they were tied down to this.
I have a tax question.
Yeah.
How many fucking dependents can you put on one tax form?
Shit, I never thought about that.
Like, wouldn't that be a huge red flag? Like, hi, I'm...
Well, yeah, because you can't be married. You can't be head of household to, like, 8 different women.
Hi, I'm Warren Jeffs, and I would like to claim my 72 dependents. 8 of them are wives, and 63 of them are children.
Damn it. I didn't even think it... Well, do they pay taxes?
I would imagine so. So some of them were like... One of them was a police officer.
Yeah, that's true. They have jobs.
Okay, we are so off.
Yeah, we are really.
Now we're just asking a lot of questions. So if anyone has answers, love to hear them. Because I have questions that are way more intrusive than this Netflix documentary. Right. So that's why they separated from the LDS church. Yeah. Is that they believe that polygamy is like the way to true salvation. Right.
A man must have at least 3 wives.
At least 3 wives. 3. I did like that the one guy was like, that one had 2 wives, and he couldn't get his 3rd wife, and he was all miffed about it. He's like, God, I never get a 3rd wife. Well, and then they give him a 3rd wife after he gives his teenage daughter to an 89-year-old man.
Yeah. Oh, God.
That was so fucking gross.
No. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so who's the main guy that started off before
Warren?
Before Warren?
His dad?
Yeah.
Rulon?
Yeah. So we start with him.
Rulon Jeffs. And he is considered the prophet of the FLDS church. Mm-hmm. And what that means is that he gets to make all the rules. Yeah. And he also gets to do this other thing where like girls will be turned into him, which means that he places them with their husbands.
Right. So he picks who they get married to. And it doesn't really matter the age.
He also picks his own wives.
Yeah. Is he the one, or is Warren the one that tried to marry his own mother? Do you remember that part?
I don't remember that part. I remember because we talked about it on Monday at lunch.
He was like,
And you were like...
Even the people were like, no.
I didn't remember that
You don't
part.
remember that
No.
part? Yeah, he said he wanted to marry his own mother, and I was like, oh my God, let's not.
But then they all call each other Mother.
You're right.
Because it's like Mother
maybe,
Alicia, Mother blah, 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 Mother Ruth, Mother...
Yeah. But I think they meant his mom.
His bio mom?
His biological mom. Yeah, because all the people were
Was it when Rulon died?
Yeah, I think so.
Maybe it was for, like, money reasons.
Maybe. Who knows? I think that guy's just a pedophile. That's it.
There.
That's it. That's all he is.
I mean, honestly, we could just end with that.
Yeah, and that's it.
So what they talk about in this first episode, kind of a lot, is Rulon Jeffs and how he would constantly tell people to keep sweet.
Yeah.
And what that meant was to be obedient. He even had socks and or shoes that had keep sweet.
Yes.
Embroidered on the bottom.
Yes.
And
let's take a quick break.
Is it really possible for a tiny tweak to your morning coffee routine to ignite your metabolism and put your body into fat-burning mode for the rest of the day? Yes. Thanks to Java Burn, a proprietary formula that, when combined with coffee, is scientifically proven to increase the speed and efficiency of metabolism to deliver unparalleled fat-burning energy. Java Burn is tasteless and instantly dissolves in your coffee. The result? Fat melts off your body. Send your metabolism into overdrive with Java Burn now by clicking the link in the description of this podcast.
But I saw a lot of children laughing and playing and having fun when he was the prophet. After he passed, Warren made all these different rules and like everything went downhill from there.
correct.
So I'm not defending fucking asshole number one.
Disgusting.
Yeah, I'm not defending, but at least...
How many wives did he have? 23?
I don't know.
I think they said it was 23. And there was that woman at the end who said every night before bed, they would have to go in and give him like a good night kiss.
Yes.
And so they would wait in line to give him a good night kiss. And there was Rebecca, I think was her name. And so her dad was the one who was like, well, I only have 2 wives. That's not enough. And so he turns her in, and Warren picks her to be his next bride when she's like 19 and he's 86.
Yeah.
And so they talk about how like they didn't want to do anything sexual with him, like at all.
Yeah.
And he was not down for that.
Yeah.
And she says, like, I was smart and I would, like, rub his feet and, like, give him a massage to make him fall asleep. So I wouldn't so I wouldn't have to do it. But then that stopped working.
Yeah. That's sad.
And it's so sad because you watch these people who have no sort of, like, education at all, you know? They talk a lot about how they didn't know what sex was. They didn't know how people got pregnant.
Yeah.
They didn't know any of that.
So the first time when they're 12, 13, 14 years old and the men want to have sex with them, they have no idea what's going on.
No, even like Rebecca, she was 19 or 20 when she got turned in because they didn't start doing the childbred shit until Warren came.
Right. But I just mean like even like that age at 12, at least at 19, you're a little bit more developed. 12 is no.
How could you even want to?
No, I wouldn't. So yeah, but anyway, they had a lot of people interviewed that were former FLDS members.
Yeah,
so,
none of the current ones would be
on the documentary. But I just liked that because like they had like we got in-depth knowledge of what it was. And I have a quote down here. It says, "You don't know any better until you get away from it," is what one of the people said. Because like she was like, I didn't know like that there was anything wrong with the way that we were living because they didn't know, they had never been on the outside before.
And I empathize with that, right? Like I get that. And a lot of these people are like, I don't think a lot of them convert. I think it's a lot of like familial, like you're born into it, you're raised into it, and then there's so many of them that it's like you could just keep that train going forever,
right?
You know, because you have so many people. so many kids. But then you gotta think about like inbreeding.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So the first episode goes through it's a lot about Rulon and all of that. And I believe towards the end you see that he passes away.
Yes.
Like he has a stroke, I think, at first, and then he passes away. But he was not supposed to die.
No. Well,
that was like the prophecy, right? Like he was the prophet and the prophet didn't die.
And he did die. So wouldn't that be done? Like, stop.
It's the same thing like Heaven's Gate.
I know, but just stop.
That's when I'm like, what mental gymnastics are people doing to like stay in it and keep believing?
Right.
You know, I'm a skeptic.
Yeah, me too.
So I would be like, wait.
No.
The whole premise of this just fucking crumble, and you want me to just like pivot?
Yeah.
And believe? No.
And believe now someone else is the
no
prophet? Like,
no, and it just so happens to be his son.
What?
Interesting.
Yeah.
So towards the end of the episode, I think you get introduced to his son, one of his many sons, because
his favorite son,
Warren.
His eldest son, right? Is he the oldest? I don't know.
I don't know. And we learn a lot about Warren from his younger brother, Wallace. I think was his name.
Yeah, Wallace.
Yeah. Wallace talks a lot. It seems like he is no longer part of the church.
No.
Because he got kicked out.
Yeah.
We'll get there. So Warren is kind of just like a bad fucking dude. Like people get ick vibes. Like they get the ick from him.
He's an icky dude. He's a pedophile. He's a monster. I mean, there's just so many. What?
I was looking. I don't know. It looked like someone shoved something.
Oh
over
no,
the door, but I think
that's been there for a while. I just haven't picked it up. Weeks and weeks and weeks of trash.
Just walk by it.
I went walk by it every day and vacuum around it. Anyway.
So Warren's kind of fucking goofy. Like he's a weird, goofy dude. And honestly, I have nothing good to say about him. No. There are zero redeeming qualities about this motherfucker.
He's not okay. He's a piece of shit.
He's horrible.
Yeah.
But Wallace tells us a lot about like how he was favorited and his mom was a different mom than Warren's mom.
Right.
So Warren's mom was like Marilyn, I think.
I don't remember.
I do. Wow. My brain.
That's amazing. I can't remember names.
And he was born 2 months premature. Mm-hmm. And so like he was a miracle.
Right.
And so Marilyn always felt like he was to be the next prophet.
Yeah.
Because he was born premature. I'm like,
which is what?
So many babies are born
so many babies.
But like he was special, and so she always like pushed Warren on Rulon.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like I don't know, almost in a fucked up way, like he was kind of groomed for that position too. Yeah, like he's a bad guy. Yeah. But like it seemed like he really had no choice either, you know? Mm-hmm. And then we hear a little bit from Wallace about how Warren had started to take a liking to his sisters growing up.
Right.
And Wallace mentioned it to their dad, Rulon. He was like, hey, like, Warren's feeling up your daughters. And Rulon was like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah. Don't ever say anything again.
Yeah, like, don't ever talk about this again.
Yeah.
I'm handling it.
Yeah.
But, like...
What? No.
It wasn't handled.
No.
Which really gives me strong Duggar vibes.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever watched that.
I didn't watch it, but I know about them. Yeah, I've read
real strong Josh Duggar vibes. Mm-hmm. Like, what?
Yeah.
My brain just, like, turned off. So that's kind of where this episode ends, I think, is we're learning a little bit more, and Rulon has passed away.
Yeah.
And then you go into the next episode.
And Warren just kind of steps into the prophet spot is what I thought. He just kind of like weaseled his way in.
Like he was like weaseling his way in as his dad was like on the downswing.
Right.
And then sort of just like once his dad was done, he was like, okay, it's mine.
Took over.
Yeah. Like he straight like royalty did.
He really
where
did.
Like the king died and the prince stepped in.
Yeah.
There was no question.
Yep.
It seemed, at least.
Yeah.
But part 2 is maybe it's part 3. I don't know. I can't remember which part, but I want to talk about how like Warren really starts to he's like really starting to tighten his grip around this congregation.
Yeah.
And he is like seemingly getting a little paranoid about them being in Salt Lake.
Yeah.
And so he forces everyone to move to Arizona.
Yeah.
Like right on the border of Utah and Arizona to Short Creek.
Yeah.
Short Creek?
Short Creek.
Creek. But they call it a creek.
Yeah.
And I believe is here where we learn that he's taking child brides.
Yes, probably.
This episode.
Yeah, this is, I mean, he changes their uniforms or their outfits to the prairie dresses.
I thought they were in those before.
No, they could wear prairie dresses, but they could pick their own prints.
Oh, it was this like they were all pink?
And now they're all pink and blue or white or whatever.
Yeah.
They can't be floral prints. They can't be different. Like, so, I don't know. I think that takes away from a lot, too. Because it's like, that's
the only spot where you can have some individuality.
something of you, yeah. And then he takes that away and forces all of them to look exactly the same.
Yeah.
And then he takes away all the kids' activities. And, like, it's just, it's not fun. I mean, it's not like, it's one thing if you're marrying 19-year-old kids, but it's a whole other thing if you're just ruining the lives of 2 and 3 and 4 and 5-year-olds, just not letting them have a childhood. That's not cool.
Yeah.
So he just like changed everything.
Yeah, so he comes in and he really starts to make things not great.
Yeah, yeah. Like it seemed like it was fine before. Like everyone was happy.
I don't know how, but I guess. But he kind of abruptly tells them, like, sell your home, sell your businesses, sell everything, and you're moving to Short Creek.
Right.
And so people did.
They did.
They were like, okay.
Yeah.
Sure. No problem. We'll leave Salt Lake and we'll sell our 2 houses and we'll just go.
Yeah.
And that'll be fine. And it's at this time, too, where, like, we find out that Warren Jeffs is marrying off
underage
young girls.
Yeah.
Like 14-year-olds.
Yes. Very young.
And so this is where we meet Rebecca's younger sister. Mm-hmm. I can't remember how to pronounce her name. It was
I have it written down.
Elsie or something, I think. And she is 14.
Yeah.
And gets married off to her first cousin.
Yeah. First.
Who she said she never liked.
Right.
He was always mean and
yeah.
unkind to her and picked on her.
Yeah.
And she was like, I don't want to do this. Yeah. And it was all arranged marriages.
Yep.
Because the prophet picks who you marry.
Yep.
And she's like, I don't want to do this. Like, I can't do this. I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
And they were like, well, too fucking bad. You're doing it.
Yeah.
So a lot of this episode was pretty heavy, like following her, and I think her name was Ruby.
Yeah.
Who were 2 child brides. Mm-hmm. And Ruby gets married off to someone named Haven.
Yeah.
Haven. Like, I know a little girl named Haven. But I've never met a boy named Haven. Right. And so someone is a police officer, a sworn police officer. Mm-hmm. I don't remember who.
Yeah.
Who gets charged with burying a child.
Right.
I can't remember. My brain is like forgetting how they figured out that they were married to a child, but he gets like convicted of it, essentially. And so it sort of plants the seed in like these different prosecutors' mind that like Warren Jeffs, like it sort of puts Warren Jeffs on their radar of different prosecutors.
Right. Well, he had, at the time that he was arrested, he had 78 wives, and 24 of them were underage.
I know.
24.
I know.
super pissed that he didn't get convicted of all 24 of those.
I know. Now I'm getting really frustrated that I can't recall exactly how that police officer.
Yeah, I'm drawing a blank.
I can't remember who he was married to. It wasn't the sister, was it?
I don't remember.
Alyssa, Elissa. That's her name.
Let's go meet him and Ed.
Do you remember it?
I don't remember.
I can't even think of the cop's name.
No, I don't remember.
But I remember them saying he was a cop, and the detective was like running, or the investigator was like running up to him and was like, "You're a fully sworn officer of the law, and you're breaking the law by being with a minor. Like, how does that work? You're married to a minor."
Yeah.
But I can't remember how they figured out that he was married to a minor. And it's really gonna bug me. Also, do you remember I used to watch this show on A&E like forever ago? It was called Escaping Polygamy, where these people would go back into the FLDS community and like get people out.
Oh.
Yeah, like they had escaped it. Okay, so I can't find the connection, but I guess he was given a 14-year-old and somehow got caught. I don't know how, but
Gross.
so that sort of puts Warren Jeffs like on the radar. Why do you want to be with a child?
No, there's something wrong.
And I think this episode they also talk a lot about how like women were the commodity. Young women were the commodity.
Right.
In Warren Jeffs' version of FLDS.
Right.
Where am I going?
I don't know.
Because that was the majority of episode 2, was like really talking about the child bride portion of it.
Yeah.
We see a little bit about some people who get out. So Rebecca gets out. She calls her brother, who I guess had gotten out.
Yeah.
And was living in Seattle or Washington. And he says like, yeah, I'll get you out. I'll no problem.
Yeah.
Like, grab a plane ticket. I'll pick you up. So he does, and she starts, and she said she wanted to take her younger sister, Alyssa.
Yeah.
Because, you know, that was her younger sister, and she loved her so much, but she was like, I didn't know how to take care, like, I didn't know how I was going to take care of myself, let alone someone else.
Yeah. Which is true, because they have no idea what's on the other side.
No.
They don't know how life works. Like, they don't know anything. It's so weird to think about.
It's crazy.
I know when they kept saying that, like, well, I didn't know what sex was. And I'm like, God, like, they didn't know anything.
Nothing.
Yeah.
So she leaves, and, you know, she's working at a restaurant and making her own life. And then she finds out that her sister becomes a child bride, I believe.
Yeah.
Or it happened while she was still there. I can't remember.
Yeah.
But her sister is like, she says that she continuously goes to Warren Jeffs.
Right.
And she's saying like, my husband is, you know, they didn't know what rape was.
No.
But like, they didn't understand that they didn't want it, and they saying no, like,
wasn't
an option really.
Yeah.
So she is going to Warren, and she's like, I'm having a lot of issues. Like, I didn't want to do this, and he is not being kind to me.
Right.
To put this in like the most basic terms possible.
Yeah.
Ruby, who also got married off and was a teen at the same time as her, they both went to that little shitty motel in Nevada to get married off by Warren Jeffs. She escapes. Yeah. And, well, first she tried to have Jeff come get her, who I guess she, like, loved. Right. Joe, yeah. My name is Jeff. She tried to have Joe, who she really cared about, come get her, and he wouldn't. Yeah. Like, he couldn't do it. And so she escapes. She meets up with one of her siblings that had escaped, and that was a huge issue for them. Yeah. Because she was a child. Yeah. She was 15 at the time or something. Young. And she's like, I couldn't be there anymore. I couldn't do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so they tried to find her and they couldn't. So then Warren does the most fucked up thing. He calls Joe from Salt Lake City and he's like, hey, Ruby escaped and we need you to get her and bring her back.
Right.
So Joe does it.
Yeah.
And he says that Warren told him that her story was really sad to me.
Yeah.
Warren told him that they would be able to get married
Right.
if he did it.
Mm-hmm.
And he says that part of him knew that it was a fucking lie.
Mm-hmm.
But he just believed anyways.
Right.
And so he does it and he meets, she's like swimming in like some swimming hole.
Yeah.
And he's like standing on the edge of a cliff. Like, what is happening? And he says like, I need you to go back, Warren. Or no, he calls and he's like, she's not doing it.
Right.
And that's when Warren's like, okay, well, tell her that you guys can get married.
Mm-hmm.
And so he does. And again,
she comes back.
She is 15.
Yeah.
And she's like, okay.
Yeah.
And she never sees him again.
Yeah.
And that's so fucking sad.
It is fucking sad.
And he says, he's like, I regret doing that every day.
Yeah.
And then it cuts to her having 6 kids by the time she was 24.
Right.
6 kids she didn't want.
Right.
With someone she didn't like.
Right.
Isn't that fucked up?
That is fucked up.
It's so fucked up.
Yeah.
It's so fucked. It's so fucked up.
Yeah.
But it also, it's starting to like topple the house of cards.
Yeah.
Because now police, like real police, are like sort of watching and paying attention.
Yeah.
And Warren is, becoming more like hidden. He's like going underground.
Yeah, he moves a lot. They can't find him.
Yeah. Well, not quite yet.
Not quite, yeah, but yeah.
But like he's not able to like deal as many child brides.
Right.
Because people are paying more attention.
Right. Yeah.
So and then Alyssa, she meets that guy. Remember, she's like working. I'm like, how did you have a job?
Right.
She was like working at a local FLDS owned like restaurant, I think.
Yeah.
And she was driving and she was how old? 20 something.
Yeah.
And her car gets a flat tire.
Yeah.
And she meets someone. Lamont was his name.
Yeah.
And I was unclear if he was part of the church. No, he wasn't.
No.
But they like begin a relationship.
Yeah.
So she's like cheating on her husband basically.
Right.
And she's like, honestly, I didn't really care. Like,
because it wasn't really her husband. I mean,
well, she said it that this was the first time she ever felt like safe with a man.
Yeah.
And she didn't love her first cousin who she was married to.
Right.
Let's keep in mind it was her first cousin.
Yeah. Which is illegal.
She didn't love him. She didn't want to be a part of any of that.
No.
Anymore. And they find a picture of her and Lamont, though, remember?
Yes.
And bring her into like Warren Jeff's office.
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah. And I'm leaving. And so she leaves. And she says, I never wanted to talk about the FLDS church again. Like, I just wanted to be done and like move on with my life. But her sister finds out that she gets out, Rebecca, and she calls her because she wants to see her and like be together again. And then that's when she begins talking to an attorney about what happened to her there.
Right.
Which is being a child bride.
Yeah.
And so this is when things get unbelievably worse for Warren Jeffs.
God. Yes.
Because her reasoning is that, sorry, there was something on the table. Her reasoning is that she didn't want her younger sisters to go through what she went through.
Yeah.
And it's sad.
It is.
The documentary doesn't talk about all of the horrible things that happen to these girls. Mm. But
you can fill in the blanks.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to fill in the blanks, and it's pretty amazing to see how normal they are,
Right.
Like, I'm using that word very like nicely.
Yeah.
Like they seem very well adjusted.
Right.
In ways that I don't think a lot of people would be, and it's impressive to see like the strength and resilience.
Yes.
For lack of a better word.
No,
Especially
100%.
Elisa or Alyssa, or I can't remember how you pronounce her name. But
for sure.
Well, there's more. He like
I forget.
He sort of goes. Did you block it all out?
I guess I did.
So he like goes on the lam, and but they talk about how he's like living it up while on the lam.
Right.
But he's also at this point like talking about Zion, which is this place where it's like heaven on earth, and everyone needs to go to Zion. But in reality, he's purchased a bunch of land in El Dorado.
Right.
Like, is this not El Dorado? Like what?
Yeah.
But everyone said El Dorado.
Like, I know, it's El Dorado, I think.
Am I wrong?
No, it's spelled El Dorado.
Right? It's El Dorado.
Yeah.
Is this just a bunch of people who don't know Spanish?
Yes.
Is that what this is?
I think it is.
So they buy this big piece of land in Texas because he thinks that, like, he can escape the authorities.
Yeah.
Here.
Yeah. Yeah. Texas, sweetie.
This is a bad place to do any sort of crime. So he begins building like a huge compound out in the middle of fucking nowhere.
And again, like, where did this money come from? Is it just
people are tithing?
Okay. Remember?
Yeah, they say that people were tithing up to $300,000 a week that they were giving Warren Jeffs to build Zion. First off, how are you building heaven? I just full stop. But then you'll find out that Warren Jeffs is living it fucking up with his first wife or his favorite wife or whatever the fuck. Riding motorcycles, going to Vegas, going to pro football games, traveling all over while he's on the lam.
Yeah.
So he gets put on the FBI's most wanted list, which is like not a good look for him.
No, not really.
And his brother gets arrested for like aiding and abetting a criminal.
Yeah.
Because he was bringing him money. So then they start sneaking him money.
Right.
By dumping out a bunch of tomatoes and cleaning the jars and putting it in the jars. Right. It's like, again, it's like hundreds of $1,000s a week.
I don't understand. Yeah.
So he does build El Dorado or Zion or whatever. Yeah. He builds it and he moves people over there. And like at first people are like, wow, this is so amazing. Like this is, you know, what we've always needed. And there's some little redneck pilot guy who's like, oh, I was flying and I was like, that was a pretty big hunting lodge because that's what they said they sold the land for.
Right.
And so there's like one reporter in this town who's just constantly reporting on the FLDS church being in their town, like, not in my backyard. Right. Which is great. Yeah. In this one instance. Mm-hmm. So then he starts building a giant fucking temple.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
There.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, the fuck? So some people are like, leave them alone. Like, it's their beliefs, it's their rights, whatever. Like, who cares? They're not bothering us. And other people are like, no. Get the fuck out of my town. Yeah. Which is like a tiny little town. Yeah. What was I going to say? Oh, and it also spends a lot of time highlighting how Warren was taking young children, like the most impressionable children, away from their parents. Yes. And putting them in Zion. Mm-hmm. Which was Texas, again. Yeah. It was the desert of Texas. I can think of a lot of places that would be heaven. Yeah. And the Texas desert is the bottom of that list.
Not one of them.
So he's taking these young kids, like 2-year-olds, 4-year-olds, and against their parents' will, the mom specifically, a lot of the dads are giving them up because what the fuck? Yeah. And putting them over in Zion. Yeah. Which I think is really important when we get to what happens there. Yeah. Because everyone's like, oh, how dare you? Yeah. When he was doing exactly that. You know? Yeah. So the FBI are tracing him and he goes to like bring, I don't remember. The details are kind of fuzzy for me right now, but he goes to bring some girls, 2 of them, I believe, to Zion, and they're in the car, like in the middle of the night, and one of his brothers is driving the car, and they get pulled over, and Warren is sitting in the back seat eating a salad. I do remember that. But they ask the driver what his name is, or they look at his license, and they see the last name Jeffs, and they're like, sounds familiar.
Yeah.
So they look closer and they see it's Warren. So he gets arrested in Arizona, I believe.
Yeah.
He gets arrested there on like accomplice to rape or something like that. It's like a very interesting charge for marrying off the underage girl, Elisa.
Yeah.
And then they find out about the like compound,
right?
And Child Protective Services gets involved.
Right.
No, not yet, because that lady calls. So everything's sort of still going as normal.
Right.
Like, he's in jail and he's still running the cult from jail.
He's doing
and
his
they're
profit
visiting
stuff.
him.
Yeah.
And they're
writing
taking
notes. Yeah.
Of everything he does and says. And he's like still profiting from there.
Yeah.
And it's like sort of normal, but things are different.
Yeah.
And here we skipped over how he just fucking kicked a bunch of guys out of the
Oh,
cult.
yeah.
I completely forgot about
I
it.
did too.
So at one point he got threatened by like other influential men who were like in the church too.
Yeah.
And had been there for a long time. Like their parents were in there and they had been FLDS and raised in it just like he had.
Yeah.
But they asked questions and they're like, one of them says like, one of their friends was like, oh, what if the prophet, wants to marry off your teen daughter?
Right.
And he says, if the prophet comes for my daughter before she turns 18, he'll have to get through me first.
Yeah.
So like he was not on board with the child. Yeah. And they just
kicked him out.
Had church and pulled out 20 men, just men. And said, you're no longer part of the church. Leave now.
Yeah.
You can't say bye to your families. Yeah. Leave now. He even kicked out his own brother. Like, anyone he thought was a threat was gone.
Yeah.
And that one guy was like, watch, you're going to lose the only certified teacher too soon.
Right.
Because he wanted people to be dumb, ignorant, uneducated.
Yeah. And
that's it.
Yeah.
So.
And then the wives and the kids went to another man.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Like I was saying, if someone walked up to my street and was like, okay, you're kicked out of your house now. I'm moving in and I'm taking your husband and kids. I would fucking go to prison.
Yeah.
You would die.
Yeah.
You would die. So.
Yeah.
I don't know how we skipped that.
I totally forgot about
just
that.
remembered that.
Yeah.
So, Warren is in prison. And they're still running like the Zion. They're still running the Short Creek.
Yeah.
Like those communities are still operating. They're still running.
Yeah.
And then they get a call. The police get a call that says, what does the call say again?
She said something about you need to look into.
No, it's like
Or did she say she was
or you need to look into. There's a pregnant 14-year-old.
Yeah.
At this place in Texas.
Right.
And so Texas Child Protective Services, the Texas Rangers, like all kinds of people fucking get involved.
Yeah.
And they're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
They find out that the call came from like an anonymous person in Colorado
who had nothing to do with
any of this. But now they
have all this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they start investigating and they pull
416.
406.
I have it written down.
Yeah, I have it written down. They pull 416 children out of the Zion compound.
Yeah.
ZFW, I think is what they called it. And they put him in the custody of the state. And so then at that time, the investigators and the police, they go to Rebecca and her sister. And because Rebecca was married to Rulon, who was the old prophet.
Right.
And they're like, do you think that there's any sort of evidence or anything that we could get that would be hidden on this compound?
Yeah.
So they get a search warrant, and her sister go, and they find like a treasure trove of records and documents.
He kept everything.
They kept everything.
Which is really weird.
And they walk in the like temple bed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they find pictures and records and phone number, or not phone numbers, recordings.
Right.
Of
stuff that he made them do.
Warren, well, what they find really is they find 2 recordings of Warren raping children.
Yeah.
With other sister wives like present in the room.
In the room.
And so that gives the state of Texas enough to like prosecute him.
Yeah.
And then he goes to jail for a really long time because his other charge was only 10 years.
Right.
So it was like the nail in his real coffin. But when the state takes in those 400 children, the FLDS church for the first time ever uses the media to their advantage. And these mothers go on there. Everyone that'll interview them. Where the fuck was I? I don't remember
any of this either. And there was like NBC News.
Larry King.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
Good Morning America.
And they put on their best, keep sweet, high-pitched, silky voices to talk about their precious children and how the state has ripped their children from them. Which, if we talk about what I just said, Warren was already ripping children from people.
He had already done that.
Yes.
And placed them in other homes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so they go on this mission to, like, basically, like, I don't know, just try and make everyone feel bad.
Yeah.
Which it works.
Yeah. It does. I mean, you look at it and you're like, damn, like they took a lot of kids away from their parents.
But one thing I found really interesting was when they were just lying.
Yeah.
Like being told to lie.
Right.
Because that one mother who had her 2 daughters there that get taken there, she was told to say like, oh no, you sent them, or you've been here this whole time, or whatever.
Yeah.
And she's like, but I didn't. Like, they got taken from me against my will.
Right.
And her daughters didn't even know who she was.
I know, that was really sad.
That was so sad.
Yeah.
But then the other thing that I thought was really fucked up was how they had that whole, like, panel of the FLDS women on some interview show. And they're like, okay, Ed, no, you don't have any knowledge of any underage girls being married off or having babies.
Right. And
they all were like, no, we've never heard of that. And the one sitting next to them was a fucking midwife.
Right.
Who delivered someone's baby when she was like 15 or 14. Like, you're a piece of fucking shit.
They're all pieces of shit.
Like, I can understand being like born into it and not having a say.
And not knowing anything different.
Like, I can get and sympathize with that. But to boldface lie and not tell the truth when you're being asked the truth.
Right.
You know, I'm sure investigators asked them for the truth. And you didn't say fucking anything.
Yeah.
That you're just as bad as Warren.
Yeah.
You're just as culpable.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like, all we have is our own integrity.
Yeah.
You know? So the kids end up going back to their parents. The state of Texas folds because they're like, what the fuck are we going to do with 416 kids for this long?
Yeah.
And they were like, come get your kids.
Yeah.
Like... You know.
Yeah. Well, with Warren out of the picture, I think that has a lot.
He's not even out of the picture.
Well, but I mean, he's away from them. Like
it has to still be happening.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it is. I just don't think it can't be that as bad as it was, though.
I don't know.
Or I don't know. He probably has all his prophets now working for him.
No, he's still the prophet.
Oh, he's still the prophet.
So he's in prison. He's in Texas, in Palestine, Texas.
Yeah.
Let me elaborate, which is not far from us.
No.
It's like in between us and Dallas.
Yeah.
And he continues to be the prophet of the church.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much where this is. But he's in prison for life.
He's
they
in prison for life.
on everything they could.
Yeah.
20 years here, 100 years for this count, 100 for this count. Like, he's done.
He's done. He's done. I don't understand how they allow him to, like, still serve or whatever. Like, can't they cut off communication with the outside world with him? Like, he's not allowed to use the cell phone. He's not allowed to write. Like, I don't understand how they're getting everything out from him.
I mean, I think he would have to have, like, cause and reason, you know?
He's being a fucking prophet. He's doing the same shit that he got arrested for. So, like, that shouldn't be...
Well, I mean, they're monitoring it, I would assume, you know?
Yeah. I just don't understand how he
can
unless
he's like, Mary Sue is 13 and marry her off to Jim Bob, who's 47. Like, I don't think there's a lot they can do.
I guess.
Which reminds me, we talked about the women's voices.
Yeah.
19 kids and counting. Mm-hmm. Jim Bob, Michelle Duggar.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard her talk?
No, I mean, I think I have, but God. I don't remember.
She has the fakest high pitch.
It's that same
voice.
Yeah.
It has always, like, grated me. Mm-hmm. So, like, that's not your fucking voice.
No.
That is no one's voice.
No.
And so, like, they're told to do that. Mm-hmm. And why was that a show?
I don't know.
People watched.
I don't know.
Like,
I never watched it. It was not part of the problem.
Like, what the fuck?
I don't know.
Why are we giving these people a platform?
Right.
Like, I mean, I guess it's kind of interesting to, like, I don't know, see how other people live, but, like, that was something so problematic. And also, I feel so bad for the children.
Yeah.
Because the older ones, if you've ever heard, I don't know if you've ever heard, but, like, the older daughters who now are, like, separating from it talk, where, like, you know, from the age of, like, 6, you're given a buddy, and that's, like, a baby, and you raise a baby.
What?
Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah. Just the girls, of course.
Right.
The boys don't have to do it. And the girls have to cover up because, you know, they can't be tempting to men.
Right.
And the little boys are told that when they're in public, they have to, like, look away. They can't talk or look at women to not be tempted. I'm like...
It's so weird. That doesn't work in this day.
But they also fucking knew that their oldest son was molesting their daughters and did nothing.
That's gross.
And it's so fucking gross.
Yeah. That is gross. So, anyway.
There we go. That's our last cult.
Last cult for a while.
For a while, I guess.
All right. Okay. Thanks for listening. You can find us on Instagram at
The Murder Mamas,
Facebook,
The M Mamas,
Twitter,
The Murder Mamas,
email,
themurdermamas@gmail.com.
And if you like us and are happy with our content, please leave us a review and a 5-star rating. We would appreciate it. Bye.